If you're in, let me see.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending, and we're going to call this meeting to order. And we will start with a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We will start out with introductions of board members, and we will start out with those that are present. Jessica, I mean, that's you.
Jessica Kane Phillips.
Kim Jordan Kingfield.
Come back to Jesse.
Yeah, okay.
Cindy Dixon Avon.
Lynette,
Lynette Abbott Phillips.
Nicole,
Nicole Norton Phillips.
Julie,
Julie Talmadge Kingfield.
Barbara. Can you hear
Barbara
me?
Nickerson, Kingfield.
Oh, sorry. Serena,
Serena Howard Strong.
Steve,
Steve Hagestrom, Strong.
Karen,
Karen Campbell from Phillips.
and then we have Lois, Paul, and Kim Robinson
Jesse's back on.
that are absent, and we have,
Mute.
Yep.
Jesse Stinchfield Strong.
great. I think we got everybody. Then we'll start with administrative staff.
Todd Sanders, Superintendent.
Go ahead, Jared. Me, okay, sorry.
Jared Young, Technology Director.
Paula Hay, Maintenance and Transportation.
Jeff Pillsbury, Principal, Phillips Elementary.
Scott, Jared.
Dora York, Food Service.
Christina Stevens, Mount Abram. Shelley Tranton, Mount Abram.
Lynn,
Lynn Carey, Business Manager.
Johanna Prince,
Brenda.
Principal at Kingfield Elementary.
Brenda Dwiggins, Principal at Strong Elementary.
Maureen,
Yes. Hello.
no, just making sure you were there.
Oh, I introduced myself. You didn't hear me.
I didn't, but that's okay. Now
All
we know
right.
you're
Sorry,
there.
Maureen Olson, Special Ed Director.
Anybody else? Wonderful, thank you. Who? Yep. We have review and approval of the agenda minutes and prioritization of items and alteration of the established agenda format sequence as needed. We're good? We're good to roll as it is. Approval of the agenda. And I would say we're all set with the agenda. Approval of minutes of previous meetings. Jessica, can you be my motion person tonight?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes
Of
of the previous meeting.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Barbara Nickerson raised her hand, Serena raised her hand, Steve raised his hand. Cindy raised hers, Nicole got hers up.
Stevie's has the thumbs up going now. He's got the comments going.
Okay, thank you.
Nice.
Do we have any public comment?
You want to put out the number? And then people wanna call in?
We do have a telephone number if there's anybody that would like to call in a public comment. And that number is 678-2701, extension 440 and 4403, excuse me. Okay, all right.
You might want to ask if anybody has comment that's watching too, that's in the meeting, so.
Does anybody else that's here remotely have any public comment? No. You want to wait a few minutes? We're going to wait a couple of minutes and see if we get any phone calls. Okay. Okay, we're going to carry on. We have recognitions and celebrations by the SAD 58 staff.
That's me, actually. I want to recognize the entire staff, so.
Oh, perfect.
That's actually we usually do a monthly recognition and haven't been able to.
Todd, we can't hear you. There's no mic on.
It might help if I unmute myself. This is when we usually recognize our employee of the month, but we've obviously put that on hold because we're just not bringing people in to do that. But I have MSAD 58 staff on there because I just think that the entire collective of staff here at MSAD 58 deserve recognition for the work they put in during the challenges that they're facing with COVID-19. They say you're only as strong as your weakest link, and the district has responded very well. And so I've got nothing but praise for the entire staff of MSAD 58. That being said, I'm going to go off the script of the agenda only because I had hoped we'd be back by now when this first started, but obviously we're not, and I'm not sure when we'll be back. So I did let the administrative team know, and I did let the high school staff know, but I think the board should probably know as well, even though we can't recognize her in person, that Christina Stevens was recognized as was going to be the next recognition for our employee of the month. So I think she did. I just hate to have that and not go unrecognized, even though we can't give her the recognition that we normally would. So Christina, you've heard it 3 times now, so congratulations. But she's done an outstanding job stepping in with Shelley being out, and even though Shelley's out, Shelley's still actively involved, obviously. But Christina did a nice job stepping up in her absence. So Christina, congratulations yet again. And at some point, we'll be able to get you that cooler, that water cooler. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations, Christina. Well deserved.
Thank you.
And that is it for recognitions and celebrations.
Okay, now we have correspondences. Letter of retirement from Marla Ferris, English teacher at Mount Abram High School. I would like to accept her letter of retirement with huge regret. I'd like to make a motion that we do. Yeah.
I'll second it.
Well, Jessica just did, so we're all set.
Okay, I second it.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed it before and you said you had.
Yeah,
So
Vote
what are
on
you
it.
gonna do if they- you don't accept it, it's not gonna retire.
right, exactly. All right, so, all those in favor? Keep your hands up, I'm going.
Excuse me? She's been out. She's been out already.
Thank you.
We got a bunch of no meetings now.
Next, we have discussion items, which were none, and then committee descriptions, appointments, and reports. Academic committee, there was no meetings. Do you want to go down through these?
Might as well just.
Okay. Superintendent evaluation, no meeting. Facilities maintenance and transportation, no meeting. Finance, no meeting. Meet and consult, no meeting. Policy, no meeting. Recognitions, no meeting. Wellness, no meeting. And student representative is not here. Next, we have second reading of policies IKF graduation requirements. So I'm counting on you, Jess.
There was no changes from first. We pretty much just agreed to accept them.
I make a motion that we accept the second reading of policy IKF graduation requirements.
We'll do one at a time. I'll second the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Yeah. Hang on. Hang on. Yep. Karen, Barbara, Julie. Did we do Barbara and Lynette? Lynette and Barbara? Barbara is in favor? Okay, thank you, Barbara. And we did get Lynette. Okay, thank you. Next, we have second reading of policy EFC, free and reduced price food services.
I make a motion that we accept the second reading of policy EFC. I make a motion that we accept the second reading of policy EFC, free and reduced price food service.
And I'll second the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, you're gonna read them to me again.
Steve, are you in favor or no?
Karen?
Karen, Julie, Cindy. Yeah, I don't get the thumbs up, so.
You did see Lynette?
I see the hand raised. But she's on my third screen, so I gotta.
Okay, and then Lynette was my only other one. Did you see Lynette? Okay. Okay, thank you. And then we have second reading of policy JL student wellness.
I make a motion that we accept the second reading of policy JL student wellness.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Me, Jesse, Serena, Julie, Barbara, Cindy, Nicole, Karen, Julie.
Put on checklist.
Yeah.
Lynette.
Julie, Serena. And the only one I don't have is Karen
Karen did, yeah.
and Cindy, you were?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. Next, we have nominations.
All right, so in your packet, I have a nomination for math teacher for next year at Mount Abram High School. And it's Aaron Demshar. Did I say that right, Aaron? And Aaron is with us. You have to unmute yourself, Aaron. You're muted. Bottom left corner, probably.
I got it.
There you
Thank you.
Oh, Aaron, welcome on board. Well, I hope welcome on board, but you're joining us. You're the first ever nomination to join us remotely by video. So feel free to have, the floor is yours if you'd like to speak.
Oh, geez. Well, thank you for the nomination. And I did work at Mount Abram a couple years ago as an Ed Tech 3, and I did some long-term sub positions in the day treatment, and I worked for Laureen. And then I've been working for CVA for the past couple years as a math teacher, and definitely I am looking forward to coming back, as there were no math positions available when I worked there earlier. So definitely would
Now
like
we've got
to.
two. We've got two if you'd really like to.
I don't have my master's degree for the second one, so but I would gladly accept the other one.
I make a motion that we accept Aaron Demshar for the math teacher at the Mount Abram High School.
Line goes away. There you go.
I second it. Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Me, Steve, Serena, Barbara, Jesse, Cindy, Karen, Nicole, Julie,
How are you seeing Lynette's? voice?
Lynette.
I don't see Lynette.
I don't either.
How are you seeing?
He's
Lynette?
seeing for some.
I don't see that.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Now, these meetings are very exciting, so should you want to stay tuned in, feel more than welcome.
Okay, thank
We're moving up the ratings on Thursday nights, but feel free to excuse yourself at this point. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very much.
We have general information, state of the schools and district from our administrators, beginning with Jeffrey and Phillips.
I'd like to start by thanking Johanna Prince. She recently organized and orchestrated a tremendous fundraising effort. Money from that efforts went to buy food, and today my Phillips families as well as Strong families benefited from that effort. I'd also like to thank the Phillips community members, businesses, private folks who helped with that initiative. I think we handed out food boxes today, 2 large bags to each family, 28 families. All the families were extremely, extremely appreciative. So thanks, Joe. I know you have been very busy, and this was just another thing that made things a little crazier. I think this has been a difficult time for just about everyone, students, teachers, administrators, support staff. We were in school Friday, and Monday, that following Monday, no school, and it's a month has passed since then, and just people are still trying to figure stuff out. But I'm extremely, extremely pleased with my teachers. I think they're working extra hard. This has not been easy for them. A lot of them have said this is way tougher than coming to school every day, and with a classroom full of kids. Teachers are missing each other. They're missing their kids. Every parent today, just about that I met with, said that their kids are missing school. And so overall, though, I think things are going well. It's been a learning experience for all of us. Teachers are collaborating probably more now than ever. I think the few challenges that have come up from parents and teachers, technology, I guess we can all relate to that. Just the problems that come with technology. Teachers are concerned about participation. Sometimes it's hard to keep kiddos engaged when they're sitting right beside you in the classroom. So when you're dealing with them remotely, that presents other challenges. So that's been a common theme. There's just pockets of students who have sort of gone off the grid a little bit. And I think parents certainly with their new role is supporting education. That's been a stressor for a lot of our parents. Feedback has for the most part been good. We've had a few parents that have asked for more work, but all in all, it's I think been pretty good. Another note: a couple of businesses, local businesses, Twice Told Tales, and an anonymous donator, Phillips, has received like 700 children's books that we've distributed most of those. So that's pretty awesome. So I guess that's sort of it in a nutshell for Phillips.
And next we have Johanna from Kingfield.
So I would echo what Jeff said. There's been a group of us working as just community organizers, and it was pretty amazing. In about a week's time, we raised about $20,000 to put the food bags together. And it was pretty overwhelming. We had a huge delivery on Monday, another delivery today, and then we sent a bus with lots of bags over to Phillips and Strong. Christina and Kavika came and got the high school boxes to deliver to those families. And each family had 2 bags, some with dry goods, and then one with fresh produce and cheese and a gallon of local milk, and then locally raised grass-fed beef. So it was pretty awesome. And then in addition, each bag had a $40 gift card to Tranton's. So it was a pretty awesome effort with lots of people working behind the scenes. The best part was that some of those kids were sitting in the back seat of the car when they came to pick up today, and it was just such a treat to wave at them or even just to see parents' faces. So thank you to all the individuals and businesses that donated for that effort. Also, we were a beneficiary from Twice Told Tales, so we were able to give out about 250 books to kids through a donation. The staff is continuing to meet regularly. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday, and that is been everything from some discussions, some professional development, and also just having a chance to check in with each other. It's pretty isolating to be doing this work, so it's nice to just come together and share what's working. I think the teachers are really doing heroic work of reaching out to kids, whether it's through texting, calls, emails. The bus runs for the food have really been a great way also to just do some check-ins with families. And that program that Dora and Scott are supporting is amazing. Now that we're a couple weeks into it, we've been seeking some feedback. So we did a parent survey earlier this week and had about 50% of our parents return that. We also did a student survey for all our 3rd through 8th graders. And again, probably closer to 75% of the kids replied. And then yesterday, I did an online parent meeting with Kingfield for anyone that wanted to come. And one of the things I tried to explain to the parents on the call yesterday is that teachers are so used to watching their kids face to face and knowing when's a kid struggling, when's a kid getting it, when do they need more time. And now that's just much harder for us to see. So we do need them to help us provide some feedback about, is this too much? Is it too little? Is it the right amount of challenge? And so I'm hopeful that that partnership will, when we return to the school building, will also be a thing that we can build on. So I think that's it for the updates from Kingfield. Everyone's looking to a well-deserved break next week.
That is amazing, Joe. Thank you so much.
How many bags did they generate?
Joe, how many bags did you generate total?
So it was 200 different families were served through the effort. And we've got a running tally of number of people. We just have to kind of now count it all up.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. We have Mount Abram High School, Shelley and Christina.
So Christina, I figured you and I could just bounce off of each other with this. We did a Zoom meeting with our senior class last Thursday, which was awesome to get to see all of those who attended. I believe we had 33, 33 out of 53 that attended, which is fantastic. And just to check in with them, talk to them about graduation and prom and senior class trip and things like that. They definitely want to know what's going on, what's the plan. And we had about an hour-long meeting just talking, listening, brainstorming with them. And then today, Christina and I attended a Western Maine educational collaborative meeting with other principals, high school principals, to brainstorm and talk about what everybody's doing or thinking of doing in regard to graduation, prom, and all of those things. And of course, we've got to figure something out to align with what the state is asking us to do. So that's still very much in a planning phase. And the kids seem to, they had really great ideas and they were really receptive and open. And we told them about this meeting today and that we'd be checking back in with them to talk some more. Do you want to pick up from there for a minute, Christina?
Sure. So we also, a couple weeks ago, I think now, or it wasn't this week, I know it was last week, we sent out a student survey just to kind of get a temperature on where kids were at, stress level, what was going well, was the work manageable, where they were struggling. And we had 70 responses from that. And the major theme in that was that kids were stressed out. They weren't necessarily stressed out with school being not the number one factor, but just what was going on in the world and family, what was going on at home. And then they also said because of that, the workload was creating a lot of stress and anxiety for them. So with that, Shelley and I kind of collaborated for about a week and with the rest of the admin team on what we're going to do for grades and grading and moving forward. So the good news is we don't have to make any altercations to the graduation requirements for our senior class because the way we're doing it for the fourth quarter is just a participation grade. So if kids are showing up, logging in, doing any amount of work for the fourth quarter, if they're already passing for the rest of the year, they're going to earn that. It's really only the English credit that would probably impact kids. And anyone that's really close, we're just working with. I think we have 4 kids that are were kind of borderline before we went on this weird break in their English classes, and we're just working with those families and those kids, particularly to get them up to speed. I'm not sure what else. I do want to say, piggybacking on Joe's today, seeing kids, I walked up to this one porch in Phillips, this one family, and I was standing on the porch. I knocked on the door and I was standing back on the porch, and the dad opened the door and all the kids in the house came like to the door, and they were all like from behind the dad. It was the best thing, best ever. But yeah, everyone was super appreciative, and it was definitely the best part of my day today was getting out and doing that. So thank you, Joe. I don't know, Shelley, is there anything else or anything else that anyone wants to know about?
I think just adding to what you were sharing about the grading and such, we also had met with a couple of different principal groups, Western Maine Education Collaborative, and then the MVC schools, to bounce ideas off of those principals as well and find out what they were doing. And overall, the philosophy is a no harm philosophy. You know, we're here to support our kids. You know, we rolled that out to staff on Monday. We had a Zoom faculty meeting. It was awesome to see them. Christina put together a virtual Spirit Week this week. And mostly it seems like the adults are participating, but we've had some kids participate too. And then she's been posting those on Facebook under the Mount Abram athletic page. Today was Mana Day, and there seems to be a tractor theme. So that's been fun, just trying to get everybody involved. So, but yeah, I think other than that, those are the main updates for Mount Abram.
That's great. Thank you, ladies. Next, well, actually, before I go on, I think there was a question from, oh, it's being answered. Never mind. Okay, so next we have Strong Elementary School. Brenda.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry to be remote tonight. I will be back next board meeting. I would like to say a big thank you to Joe and the Kingfield community and those that collaborated with that initiative. It was like Joe and Jeff and Shelley, Christina have already said, it was so amazing to see the faces. Couldn't get that close, and we took things out to vehicles, and then we delivered probably about 7 or 8 of ours. We were able to service 22 families. And then we had another group of angels from Farmington that helped us with 20 other families. So I felt pretty blessed to be able to help them and not have to worry about them for next week. So thanks again to the Kingfield community for doing that for us, and all those that donated. It was amazing. I would just like to say thank you to Scott and the bus drivers and the kitchen crew for the meals. I know Strong is up to 174, I think, today. And those drivers and the ed techs that help with that, they just love to see the kids' faces as well. We are in education, and it's hard to be in a building or to be doing this and having to do everything remotely. So I'll be glad for the opportunity to go back to school. We as well were recipients of receiving about 200 books from a donor, and we handed those out in our packets on Tuesday. So it was wonderful to see the kids' faces for those. We meet collaboratively as a team with the lower end and the upper end, and all the ed techs twice a week. This week we just met once, just trying to get them ready, encouraging them for all the great work that they're doing, the communications with all the families and the students, and they are letting me know which ones they're unable to contact. And I've been making some home visits, just some well checks to make sure those kids are okay. And then I think lastly would be, if you go by our school, you'll start seeing some signs up in the windows, and we're just letting the kids know that we really miss them. And so that'll just kind of brighten up the outside of the building a little bit. Looking forward to when this will all be over. So I think that's about it from Strong.
Great. I think we're all ready for it to be over. Thank you, Brenda. Next, we have district-wide special ed, Lorraine.
Hi there. How is everybody? Holding out. So we've been really extremely busy in special ed. But I really want to, well, the first thing I had that I wanted to say was what an amazing big kudos to Joe Prince, because everybody else already said that. But the complications that people probably don't even understand that they had to overcome about how to arrange who was going to get, where they were going to get them, contacting all of those families, to do that in that short window of time was spectacular. And there's no other word for it. So I just want to make sure that continues to be recognized. In terms of special ed, like I said, it's been a really busy world for us right now. I have to give big kudos to all of the elementary school teams. The middle school teams are all working, the younger kids and kids are engaged. We have had some challenges with getting hold of some of the younger kids or some families that live in remote places, but with the help of the principals and teachers and ed techs that are willing to, knock on doors and go visit from a safe distance just to make sure everybody's fine, and to get them devices and materials and all of that has been outstanding. I want to give a special big shout out to the Mount Abram high school staff, and I can't believe what they've been doing from the get-go. They just immediately started virtual classrooms and schedules. Every kid has a schedule that follows what they did before. Our kids that have really high needs are having virtual lunches with them. They're doing check-ins. They're keeping them in classes for as long as they need that engagement, especially the ones that are home alone. They have a positive can-do attitude. They're collaborating with therapists. They're teaching students to be independent with technology, and the kids are surprising us every day with what they're able to do. Our attendance has been, it's almost, the kids are just begging for more time with their teachers online. So it's just been extremely high attendance. Staff keeps saying, how can we do this better? And I'm thinking, I don't think they can do it much better. When I talk to other directors, the Mount Abram special ed staff here is doing more work and more amazing things than I've heard of from any other director. So I can't tell you enough about that special ed staff at Mount Abram High School. Another big thing that's been happening is GT. We've been able to keep that in place during this time. We have 12 middle school GT students that are doing a challenge program that's centered around the national parks. They all have signed into the Google Classroom. 75% have already completed the first challenge. The other students other 25% are working on them. They're working through them, just not quite as quickly as some of the others. We have our younger kids doing this new thing that we found that was free called Renzulli Learning. It's an extension program that's free until the end of June, and it's just working beautifully. I don't think, unless somebody has any questions, obviously I've been working hard at making sure we follow the laws that we have to provide services, and the documentation that is different that we have to show for special ed to ensure that we continue to provide services in all of the areas that the students have on their IEPs. That is a challenge, but I've met with lawyers. I meet with the state director twice a week. I meet with my directors group at least once to 2 times a week, and we're learning a lot about what we're supposed to be doing, and we're making it happen. That's it.
That's great. Thank you. We had food service, Dory York.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to play Wilson. So I got to thank Jove on 2 levels. Thank you so much for putting the food boxes together so my staff could have next week off. It really relieves a lot of pressure there. And Joe also got Kingfield up to the 50% mark. So big shout out to Joe. Thanks so much for that. So now district-wide, we're 56.58% in Kingfield meets. So all kinds of grants. We're gonna write all kinds of grants. And speaking of grants, we just got another grant from the Full Plates Full Potential for $1,000. So that one just came in last night that they announced that. I applied for three $3,000 ones from Gen Youth, and they said sent me an email that said, thank you for your application. Due to the tremendous response, decision notification is taking longer than anticipated. We appreciate your patience. So hopefully we'll hear from that very soon. We're up to 545 meals a day. So everybody's doing a great job, and I'm very proud of my staff. Very thankful for Scott's staff, and as an A team, I'm very proud to be part of it. So thank you guys very much.
Great, thank you, Dora. Next, we have technology, Jared Young.
Okay. As you can guess, things have been kind of crazy the last few weeks for all of us. Devices, I think we're getting to a point where we feel a little more comfortable. We feel like we need some more. We were talking this morning as an ed team about like the speech therapy kids in K2. So we're looking at that. I do know that the state is supposed to be providing LTE tablets at some point. The last I had heard was the end of the month, but I'm not sure when our district or our area is in line to get them. They're going through the areas that have been identified as the highest needs and that don't have the coverage from other providers. So I'm not sure where we are on that list yet. They haven't told us, but hopefully we'll be getting something from there. I have been in contact with several vendors about some hotspots, some access points. I don't know if everyone's aware, we did get $1,000 from the Betterment Fund to help with that, to go towards purchasing hotspots. So I'm working with some vendors to see what kind of pricing we can get and what kind of service we can get. It is a bit of an issue because hotspots are in very high demand right now, as you can imagine. But we're trying to see what's available and what's there and what we can get a hold of. And believe it or not, I kind of feel like my staff is probably a little more busier now than they usually are. It's a bit more difficult to support people from afar, especially since we don't have any kind of really remote software that we use. We just don't pay for any. So we're trying to do everything through email and phone calls. Fortunately, knock on wood, we have not had a whole lot of issues. I did have a device that got brought in today, but that's really the first one that we've had that has had some major problems. So we're hoping to keep our good fortune going for the next few weeks. And I think, as others have said, everybody's just looking forward to a week off next week.
Great, thank you, Jared. Next, we have facilities, maintenance, and transportation with Scott.
Yes, good evening. The bus drivers are actually really missing their kids. I've talked to a few of them. As a bus driver, sometimes you tell them to sit down and be quiet, and now they're saying it's so quiet on the bus, it's not even like it should be. So they are missing their kids as well. They have been very busy. They've been out delivering food. We've gone through the fleet. Pretty much a lot of the summer maintenance has already been done. We got a call today from the state inspector. I was surprised that they were even going out to do them, but they've been released to do that. So May 5th, we're going to have our state bus inspection. And as far as maintenance, we've got many summer projects already done. I have probably 5 more, and they're bigger projects, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because if we by chance we did come back, I don't need something all tore apart. We are starting doing the summer cleaning schedule, but again, I said, 1-2 rooms at a time, something that you could put back together if they do come back. Other than that, I think things have been rolling along pretty good, and it's not school anymore, folks. It just isn't right.
Thank you, Scott. And I just want to say, sitting here listening to all these stories is almost overwhelming. All of you guys, teachers, ed techs, all the administrators, bus drivers, you guys are amazing. And thank you very much for all your hard work. Next, we have old business, the COVID-19 updates.
You know, and I have to echo what you just said, Kim. You know, that's why I had the MSA, the entire MSAD 58 staff is receiving recognition earlier. Scott put me on a bus out through Madrid the other day, a bus that apparently a route he won't even drive, but to see the interaction and the driver and custodian and I gave me a detailed history of every house. We tutored every staff member that we drove by, and it was truly refreshing, and as refreshing as that can be. But to watch the interaction between the drivers, the ed tech, and not only the children but the families, the parents as well, are just happy to be having interaction, and I really promote connections between people, and this is doing nothing but reinforce. Even from a distance, I think the connections are being reinforced, and I'm hoping that out of this, there will be some positive growth. So again, I echo what you said, Kim. The entire staff just deserves credit. As far as the COVID updates go, for old business, the only thing I would bring up is that the governor has extended the state of emergency through May 15th, as you're probably all aware. So there'll be nothing prior to that. That's pretty much it. The COVID update is pretty much what you heard. I just wanted the building administrators. We haven't done our state of the schools, if you will, for a while, just because we've been out. And I think it was just important for you to hear directly from the building administrators the good things that are happening in a bad situation. So kudos to them. And I thought they all spoke very well as far as what's going on in their buildings. So that would be it for the old business for COVID-19.
Thank you. New business, remote learning overview.
Yeah, so there's a couple of bullet points I had here that have already been addressed. One was there's always high school graduation concerns, but I think it was Christina who spoke to that we don't have to come to the board to have any kind of modification to our graduation. As far as credits go and things like that, we should be all set with our high school seniors. So that is good. Our learning will take a break over April vacation. And I think it's a much needed break. As you're all aware, we will not be serving food, hence the outstanding work that Joe and everyone else did with the packets. But the food service people, the bus driver, they do need a break. So we are going to treat it as if it was a regular school year, and April vacation will be treated as such. This morning during our admin team, I encourage administrators to take some screen time away, or take a break from screen time. It's just the virtualness of it just makes you be able to cram more and more meetings into a day. Why are you? I keep looking at she's laughing. Sorry, a little distraction by a member here in attendance. So I lost my train of thought. What was I saying, Ken? Oh, the timeline. Yeah, it's overwhelming because you go right, one meeting stops and you're instantaneously into another meeting. So it's people need a break. So I encourage them all to take a break. Let's see what else. I'm continually in meetings around remote learning with the Western Maine Superintendent's Association, the Kennebec Valley Superintendent's Association, and I would say that I have to echo what Laureen said with her special ed staff. The work that's being done in this district is right up there with work being done in other districts, and in many cases a little ahead of it. So again, kudos to the staff. So I think that's pretty much it. Oh, one other thing it falls under remote learning, but it's a little bit different. Shelley mentioned the no harm approach, which has been the message throughout. That I'm also going to apply to our teachers because not only are we talking about assessment for students, but we also have teacher evaluations and observations that have to occur. So it came up as a discussion in A-Team today. I had a phone conversation with Kurt Yak, who is our eye observation guru, if you will. So what we're looking at is extending that into next year, if you will. So not it's just going to extend. Now, if a teacher had done some work and wanted to receive credit for that, certainly they could, in conversation with the administrator, they could do that. I'm going to craft some language around that. I'm going to work on that over April vacation. So I will share that with the A team when we get back, and then I will run it by the PPEG group as well as the Teachers Association, just to make sure that the language says what I want it to say. But it really will take that off teachers' plate so that they don't have to worry about the evaluation process. So I will be bringing that forward after April vacation. So I think that's pretty much it for, oh, one other thing. This group approved our plan. I submitted it to DOE. The DOE has indicated they haven't got a lot of plans so far. They've only received 40. So I did ask the MSMA. DOE didn't verify that they received our minutes. If you remember, you took a vote. I said I needed a vote for our plan, and you gave us flexibility to develop it and revise it as we need. So I did submit that the following day, but the DOE doesn't give you any kind of verification that they've received it. So I did ask the Maine Superintendent Association to reach out to the DOE and see if there's any way they can confirm that they did receive that, because they're still saying they just don't have many yet. Maybe we're just one of the top 40. I don't know, but so hopefully I'll get that verification. Along those lines, a lot of the message from the commissioner was plan for remote learning to occur for the remainder of the school year, which immediately people said schools are closed for the rest of the school year. The WMSA, Western Maine Superintendents Association, is fighting as hard as we can to hold out hope that even if we can get kids back in the classroom for one day, we will do that. So we don't want to come out as a group, and we're trying to do it as collective. It's kind of become regions kind of making decisions for their region. We're not getting any real we're getting guidance, but we're not getting any directives from the DOE or from the commissioner. So it's pretty much a regional decision. So the WMSA has even more so than the KVSA, I would say, and not anything against one being better than the other, it's just different. We're really trying to hold on to that hope that maybe we'll get kids back in. So the message that the commissioner had meant to send out, and I will say that the timing of it wasn't great. It came out at 8:30 at night. So superintendents did share that they were a little concerned with the timing. The commissioner said that that will not happen again, and that she will also run it by superintendents before it goes out to the general public. But her message was, as she said, was meant to just let teachers know they needed to prepare to be out remotely for the remainder of the year. Not that school was closed for the rest of the year. So we are preparing to be out remotely for the remainder of the school year. That being said, you need an end date. People need that. So schools in the area now, we're not 100% on the same page, but we're pretty close. So what the superintendents are talking right now is setting a date where if, and I emphasize if, we're still out of the buildings, remote learning would stop. Now, if they tell us we can come back in the 1st of June, we'll be back, and it will stop then, and we'll be back to traditional learning. So right now, what I'm going to share with the board doesn't need to act on this or vote on it, because you've already approved our remote plan, and however we need to work it, design it. My proposal is, or what I'm sharing with you right now, is that remote learning, if we are out for the duration of the school year, would cease on the 12th of June, which is a Friday. That means we would still have, I don't want to go into changing the school calendar, because that would require board approval. The commissioner has waived seat days, so we've got flexibility there. That would leave us the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th of June, which would still be our calendar days as it sets now because of snow days, still keeping the snow days in there. And I would, the plan right now is to use those as professional development days for staff, to give them an opportunity to plan for what is this going to look like when we have kids come back to us in September. Plus, we also have 2 workshop days at the start of the school year as well. So the A team will work on what is the best use for those. We've traditionally used the first day to do a lot of mandatory trainings. I'm not so sure that's going to be the best use of the first day in August. I think there might be higher priorities. We have a window of time that we can do those trainings. But that will be an A team discussion and decision. So at this point, the goal, the direction that we're headed is the 12th would be the last day of remote learning, and those 4 days the following week would be professional development. And what that may look like as far as wrapping up this year and moving forward. And it may also be a good opportunity for us to take a period of one of those days to talk about the teacher evaluation and what that looks like for teachers moving forward next year, where some things will have been left undone this year. So that's the change, I guess, or the proposal I have, or direction we're going to head with remote learning right now as far as the timeline goes. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, or I'm looking at the screen to see if anybody has anything.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you,
I
Todd.
do. I just wanted to ask, how are the kids going to go about getting their laptops and computers back? Is that something, are they keeping them over the summer? Are they handing them in at the end of the year?
You know, that's a good question, and that's a lot of conversation that's going on in the Acton group, and Jared's part of that, and I'm part of that, so I see a lot of that. It's a discussion that we've already had as an A team. There's two schools of thought on that, and it's awful easy to swing from one school to the other based on what information you have. At this point, the most recent, Jared, you can chime in, or any other administrator can chime in. At this point, the last lily pad that we landed on as far as that goes is we do think it's important to get them back. There's going to be some funding coming to us that we can use to repair those laptops, because there would be a concern if they stayed out all summer, they were damaged and weren't able to be used when we return. Also, there's the whole cleanliness of them as you get them back and things like that. So at this point, we're leaning towards one of those 4 days that I just mentioned, being a return of devices day, if you will. So that we can get those back and determine what repairs are needed. Jared said earlier that there's only one so far, knock on wood, that he's aware of. There can be a big difference between what we're aware of and what's actually out there. So we really need, I think, to get those devices back and get them ready to go for the start of the school year next year. Jared, you want to chime in on that? Is that?
Yeah, I would just add one of the main concerns with keeping them over the summer is, as you know, we're entering a bridge year next year. So the warranties on the MacBooks are running out. I believe it's sometime in August. So we really would like to get those back so we can have a look at them and send them in for anything that would be under warranty to get them repaired under warranty, so we don't have to pay out of pocket for that. So that's one of the main reasons why we're talking about trying to get them back in.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You want to move to the next one? Budget? All right. There was a question at the last budget meeting, and Lynn went back and did some more of her magic with the numbers. You know, I understand the need for additional information. I do think sometimes it can muddy the waters a little bit. So I hope people understand it's a lot of work and it's a lot of information that she's generated here. Lynn, I think you and I talked about it earlier today, and I think it's helpful if you just walk through, similar to what you did last time, explain what each of the areas that you've identified indicates, and maybe just walk us through the information as you did with you and I did earlier today.
Okay, so the original question from Tuesday was revised this morning to include not only contractual obligations that we had planned for FY 2021, but also to include all other expenses that were approved for FY 19-20, so our current budget year. So I went through and put together a sheet on our contractual obligation totals for each cost center for FY 2021. That includes wages, benefits, retirement stipends, insurance, loan payments, those types of things that we are obligated to pay. And then the other area I put together was all other expenses. So anything else being contracted services, staff travel, supplies, transportation, fuel, electricity, pellets, anything like that. And added those figures all together and came up with totals. So the question was, if we went with contractual obligation totals for FY 2021, and then all other expenses totals from the approved budget for this current year, so a flat budget, didn't do any increases on any of those lines, what would the difference be to the budget? So I don't know if everybody has a sheet in front of them or not, but toward the end of the sheet, there is a section that indicates the total cost, including all proposed position changes, and how much the decrease would be under what's being requested for the FY 2021 budget. The next line down is total cost, not including all proposed position changes and the decrease in that. Below those two lines, it shows if we, over the 2019-2020 year, if we use contractual obligations for 2021 and the other expenses from 19-20, including proposed position changes, the percentage that we would be higher than last year's or this current year's budget is 6.627%. And underneath that, I have what it means for town assessments at that rate. Underneath that, I did the same thing, but not including proposed position changes. And it puts us at 5.444% over last year's budget or this year's budget. Again, with town assessments. And then just for comparison below that, I have a little snippet from our current revenue sheet with our requested budget for 2021, which is at a 7.8 increase over 19-20 and what it does to the town assessments. So that's that sheet in a nutshell.
Lynn, thank you. Thank you for the hard work that you do for all of us. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm gonna say something. I think that we need to think about what we're gonna do so that we can wrap this budget up. Cindy, you had some concerns. So I don't know. I just think that we need to do something so that maybe next time we can finalize everything and then just sign it, because we can't keep coming and coming and coming. I think everybody needs to say what they feel, and then maybe next time we meet, we can say, okay, this is good.
Well, I don't feel like I've had time to really look at the information
Mhm.
because Lynn was asked to do it so quickly. So I'm not sure that I'm prepared.
Well, I'm not saying tonight. I'm just saying that maybe everybody can look it over or whatever needs to be done. And then next time that we meet for the budget meeting, that we can say, okay, we're happy with this.
Well, I think the administration is looking for direction from us unless we think we're going to accept the budget without any cuts, which I think we need to look seriously at our communities and what we anticipate, how much money the state may have. So maybe we'd ought to look at the budget timeline, revise that, and kind of determine what we'd like to do at each one of those meetings.
What I have,
Know when we.
this is what we have slated. My desire is to have some direction from the board tonight. A concrete direction that the board would like us to go. I hear position, we can't come in with the entire request. Kim and I were talking earlier that, as you go through that budget, there's nothing in there that is just easy to remove and say it won't have an impact on students. But we are running out of time, especially if we take April vacation next week. And as I said, I've tried to encourage administrators to take some time off. We are doing a quick check-in on Friday morning, the 24th, but administrators have scheduled a block of time on the 27th, which is Monday. The next budget meeting would be, we've scheduled those Tuesday, Thursday meetings, so we would meet again on the 28th at 6 o'clock. So what my hope is, and what we really need it to be, is when we leave, or by the time we meet on the 27th. Now that means, the board could take some time and look it over, but I need to have guidance, concrete guidance, direction, as far as what the board would like us to come in with for budget for that meeting on the 27th, because I need to bring an acceptable budget to you on the 28th. We have to have this wrapped up. That gives us the 30th as the Thursday. That's the last day of April, and we really need to have something set by then. The way, I'm still waiting for some guidance, just a secondary note on that. one question came up in the A team, and I don't have an answer for it, and Lynn didn't have an answer for it. So I've reached out to the Maine School Superintendent's Association to find out, what is the amount the towns have to come up with so that we're guaranteed to get the funding from the state, because you can only go so low and then you run the risk of losing that. I don't think we're there with any of the scenarios that Lynn has shared, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. So I've reached out to Maine School Management to find out about that. The second thing is with the, one of the towns actually reached out to us today with the moving of, and this is how I understand it right now, we still have not got guidance from attorneys or from Maine School Management yet, but the rumblings are that there's wording on the governor's desk that the budget that the board approves will be the budget that goes into is passed on to the towns for starting July 1st. And then you'll have the validation meeting and the votes kind of after the fact. So putting the cart ahead of the horse, so to speak. So the budget that we start off the year with may not be the actual budget that, based on the voters, may not actually be the budget that we end up the rest of the year with. But that's the understanding of how they're talking about working it now, because as you're probably aware, the voting has been pushed back to July 15th, I think it is, 14th or 15th. So that's the direction. So we really do need to get a budget approved by the board by the end of this month.
By the end of the month, yeah.
Can we go over the dates of the next budget meetings? Because I didn't have any of them.
Well, we said we were going to have to decide on them as we move forward. So we've been keeping Tuesdays, Thursdays open. So we're obviously going to have to meet on the 28th. And then necessary, we'd have to meet on the 30th.
I have a question. You can't see my hand. I'm sure I've been.
So I see. I wasn't looking at my screen. Sorry, Julie.
You were talking. That's all right. It's hard to do things this way. And I think we need to be patient with one another, because in a normal setting, we get to ask a lot of questions and we get to hear and gauge people's faces. And it's a lot, not simple, but it's a lot easier to come to terms with some of this stuff. And to see the numbers and not be able to talk about them is frightening to me. And I do think the state has come out with some guidance as to, I'm not saying it's lenient, but there is some change in how we are to go about this year. So I'd also like to know a couple of questions I had tonight, one of which was, are we going to see any savings this year as a result of our hiatus? Is there going to be any cost center adjustment? Is there going to be anything that's looking like we might be able to put it in a pocket for down the road?
That discussion actually came up at 18 this morning. The question was, are there things that we might be able to purchase with monies that we won't be expending this year that we have built into next year's budget to bring that number down? And Lynn, you can chime in at any time, because Lynn and I actually had this specific conversation earlier today. Also, the thing is that monies that we don't spend could be moved, will be moved forward and could be utilized down the road as carry forward money as well. So it's, I guess, either side of the fence you can use it on. Lynn, I don't know, do you want to chime in on that piece?
You're doing fine.
I left it as a question. I should, as soon as it has, never leave it as a question. Lynn, chime in.
It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, you can spend some of the money that we are, quote, saving this year to purchase some things for next year. However, if you do that, then down the road, you don't have as much carry forward money to help you out in another budget year. And the concern with that is, if we get hit next year by the state because they have to try to recoup some of this free money that they're handing out to people, and we don't get as much subsidy, then we're really going to need that carry forward money next year as opposed to this coming up budget year.
But yes, there will be, obviously there's things we're not paying. Scott and I had this conversation early today as well. There are things that we're not, we're doing one bus run a day instead of 2. So that's a savings for not our long-term subs, because they're still providing instruction, but for our daily subs, we're saving monies there. Christina mentioned earlier that or not earlier here, but earlier today, that, without the spring sports. So there's some savings there. So there are cost centers, yes, that we are not going to be expending money we would traditionally be spending.
But we're not gonna have those figures to help.
I mean, Lynn provides it a monthly, I mean, you get that, the finance committee gets that, how much is left, percentages are left, so you're gonna see those percentages probably be higher than they normally would, and it's in the packet. It's actually in the packet right now.
Yeah. Did you have another question, Julie?
No, that's why I was asking, because I'm seeing cost centers that aren't spent down to the normal levels. And the other part is, I think we need to be really aware of our communities and the fallout that's going to happen down the road 6 months from now. We may not have recovered economically as, to the extent that we might be normally able to provide. And I just think we have an obligation to do due diligence with these numbers. So I hear you, Jesse, but I am in favor of extending this to the point by, which we are all comfortable enough to say this is our best shot. Because if this is going to be our decision and the voters don't get to weigh in until later, this is a huge obligation, and we really need to carefully consider what is in this budget. I'm not saying there's anything I want to do without, but we can trim. I'm sure we can trim. And I think we need to be aware that our communities may expect that.
And I understand, Julie. I'm just saying that it's going to be a hard year anyway for the towns, for the taxpayers, for everybody. But if we could just move it, not fast, but along, so that we can get this done, so that we can have some kind of presentation to them when we do have something. Some towns, that's all.
Sorry, Cindy.
Getting this right, Todd, you and the admin team would like a target figure or a target percentage to work towards, so that you feel you have something to bring us next time. So I think as a board, we need to give them direction instead of looking at a 7.83% increase. I was hoping to have more time to look at the numbers to be able to come up with a better percentage, like say, we don't want to see the budget increase more than 3% or more than 4%, whatever we decide as a board. But I think they're looking strongly for that direction. So is that something we can start to work toward tonight?
Well, and like I said, if we're meeting next Friday morning, we wouldn't be sitting down to have these discussions. We talked a little bit. We spent an hour plus today talking about if we had to move things, remove things from the budget, what would they be? And it's painful discussion because there's nothing in there that isn't, necessary. But yes, that is the direction we would like to have. Keep in mind, Lynn, and I'm going to look for a nod. You don't have to say anything, Lynn, but just a nod. We figured about $50,000 is about 0.5%, correct? Yeah. So 50,000 gets about 0.5%. So if you're talking going down to 3%, which you just mentioned,
yeah,
you can do the math. Yeah. That's devastating. I don't want to even throw out a number, which I as a suggestion, but we do have scenarios. So
I would just chime in, Todd, right here, that 3% does not cover position increases and contractual things, contractual obligations.
Okay, and Lynn, I think you were breaking up, but I'm going to try to repeat what I thought you said. Yeah, somebody typing. There we go. All right, try it again, Lynn.
I just said that a 3% increase over last year would not even cover all of our contractual obligations.
Correct.
And she may have just been throwing out 3% as a number. I'm not saying
that's a number that I was looking for the other night when I asked for what percentage do we have to keep it at to maintain our contractual obligations, even if we didn't add anything else. Do you know what that percentage is?
Yes, it's on the sheet that I just went over. If you kept all of the other lines the same as this current budget year, so you did not change any of those lines, and you just increase the contractual obligations, you would be at 5.444%.
So you're saying we literally have to cut positions if we want to get below 5%.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's the direction that I would recommend we give to Todd in the admin. I don't know that we can, in good conscience, ask our communities to have that large of an increase.
So just to throw a dollar figure out there, and I think we would be close to that, if we reduced the budget by $150,000, does that bring it down?
That brings it down approximately 1.43%.
I think we have to stay within the 5% area. I'm not saying exactly, but around that area to maintain our budget and positions, to maintain the current level of services and the positions that we have. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
You also
Lynn,
have to factor in the subsidy that we get from the state. And even if you were seeing a 5.44% increase over last year, it doesn't mean that the town assessments would be that much. So with like a 5.44% increase over last year, Avon gets a 0.93 increase, Kingfield gets negative 4.96, Phillips gets 0.48, and Strong gets negative 1.5. So you're going below your increases.
But are we certain of state funding at this point? Can we say that we are absolutely positive that this money is going to come to us from that direction? I'm not certain we can, given what we've heard.
That's the information we're getting from the commissioner and from the DOE, is that the funding, the ED 279s for this year will remain what they are. Now, does that mean someone can go back on their word? Certainly they can. But that's the message that we're getting. I think what Lynn said earlier, and what my concern is that we'll see a curtailment next year. But I don't see it. My flat out question to one of the directors down at Maine School Management was, what would your direction be? They're obviously former superintendents. What would your direction be where we've got the opportunity to put some positions in this year because of the subsidy that we're getting and because of the way we've crafted the budget, knowing that you may have to turn around next year and remove them if there's a curtailment. And the guidance that they gave was that they would build the budget this year based on what we have for numbers.
Another thing we have to consider, aren't we in negotiations with support staff right now?
No, Schedule B is done. The ed techs, we're in negotiations with the ed techs right now, but we've built in to the current budget monies for that anticipated increases.
Lynn, did you figure out what the percentage would be if we reduced this budget by 150,000? Would it be more than the 5.44%?
Let me get to that sheet.
Sorry to put more work on you.
She's got it.
So
She's got it.
I have a scenario that I did, like a sample scenario. And if approximately $150,000 or 1.43% were to be cut from the current budget, it would put the total requested budget at approximately $10,372,591, which would be at 6.276. As far as town assessments, Avon would get a 2.86% increase, Kingfield negative 3.14%, Phillips 1.43%, and Strong 0.64% increase.
Oh, okay.
Using our
I'm
ED
sorry, I'm
279.
seeing that now. Okay, so what's anybody's thoughts on that?
Our communities are not only looking at what their assessments are going to be, they're looking at the increases. They're looking at what we're doing, as a whole.
So what are you thinking, Cindy? Putting you on the spot.
I will say that if we try to come in at a 5, it's devastating to this district if we try to come in at 5%.
Yeah.
It's devastating. It's not only not new, we're going to be eliminating positions we currently have. Nicole, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay, so the one thing I would say that I've noticed is that it seems like many of the increases in the budget are related to healthcare expense. Because we pay a proportion to our employees in the system, we are subject to whatever the increase the carriers bring up, which is substantial. I was doing the math and it's increased like 24% over the past few years. So by paying 85% or whatever of the number is to the employees in the district, we are really held to the fire in the fact that our increases are directly correlated with the insurance companies. If we were to pay a flat rate versus a percentage, we would be able to better control our budget increases because we would know that we're paying, 10, 15,000 per employee for their benefits versus a number that just keeps increasing every year based on what the price is.
I agree, Nicole, 100%. Unfortunately, that's a negotiated, definitely something I think we need to consider moving forward for sure. I think this, through all of this COVID, that's definitely something that we need to push.
And we are a high user. This district is a high user of insurance.
Yeah.
Right. So I would just, encourage whomever's on the negotiating committees going forward. We need to look really closely at healthcare and especially committing to percentages over a 3-year contract or however long it may be, because we can't anticipate what the cost is going to be. If it's increased 24% over this last contract term, that automatically increases the budget for the entire district and our taxpayers.
Yes. Thank you, Nicole. I agree. I appreciate that thought. Who? Oh, see, I can't see. Oh, hi, Steve. Go ahead.
Hi. The squeaky wheels back, Todd.
That's Mr. Haggerston.
The trouble really does seem to be with our. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but anyway, with our salaries and benefits, and these are negotiated with the teachers and the unions or whatever. But when your costs get too high, and you can't afford them, and you can't change the insurance deals, and you can't change the salary deals, our only choice is the number of employees. I don't see any other way around that. And I am in agreement that this is way too much money to go to the towns with. I wish it weren't. I wish we could give all the money in the world, but I don't feel we can. The town may overvote us again, as they did a couple of years ago. I couldn't believe they approved the budget, but I don't know. I think our job is, as well as caring for the children, which I know that is our prime objective, but these increases, it's over 5% if we freeze everything except contractual. That's all. You're kind of forcing our hands, I feel. Enough said.
Okay, so now I'm going to say stuff.
Do I want to mute you?
So my comment as far as the contractual stuff, any of you that want to join the negotiation team, have at it. Second, I have a kid that's in the high school, and she's going to be looking at taking quite a few online classes. I'm not thrilled with it. She wanted to take online classes, she'd be in college. She's a junior. So I think that we need all the teachers that we can get. I think that I understand that time is tough and that money is tough, but when all is said and done, the state's going to pitch in some money. It's not going to be a crazy out of the box increase that we haven't seen before. It's quite a bit less than what we've seen in years past. So I'm not thrilled with cutting teachers because I think that you're hurting students and that defeats the purpose of what we're supposed to be doing.
And I want to ditto what Jesse is saying. I do have a son that had to do some online courses his senior year. And my fear, I mean, we already have teaching positions at the high school that weren't filled. And I've had kids that have asked me when we were going to get those positions filled. Our own student representative has asked me if I know when we're going to get those positions filled. And I think with my big concern with all of this COVID-19, kids missing so much school, they're going to be at such a deficit when they start back up in September. For us to throw a shortage of teachers on top of what they're already losing would just be devastating to them. You know, I think if we could throw the $150,000 figure, I think if we go much lower than that, like Todd says, it's going to be devastating to our school district. I mean, I understand the tax piece of it. Don't get me wrong. I totally do. But we've got to educate these kids. I don't know which is more devastating, the devastation to the taxpayer or the devastation to the kids that we can't educate.
I guess what I would, if it's okay, can I speak? Oh, sorry. Well, I guess my suggestion would be if the board would allow the administrative team to go back. Now we know that the number is just not acceptable. So knowing that those $50,000 increments equal about 0.5%, I guess what I would ask is that the board allow the administrative team when we meet on that Monday to formulate a couple, we're talking Friday, but we're meeting for the budget on Monday. And allow us to come up with a couple phases, if you will, different steps of reduction, and present those to you on Tuesday night. And then maybe we can land on one that the board is comfortable with. So we'll bring that, because I'm hearing that the number is too high. So if you would allow the administrative team to work on those, like I said, on about $50,000 increments, to just come up with several proposals to the board and see if we can't bring something to you Tuesday night that's palatable.
And I'd like to hear from I'm sorry, Cindy, I'll be right with you. I'd like to hear from, you would ask these administrators at these levels what impact these would have on the students.
And they can certainly speak to that. We spoke about it today in our meeting, so they certainly are willing to speak to those positions. There's nothing, like I said, that we would put out there that won't hurt a little bit. But certainly we can go back and we can look at other things. I know it's nickel and diming when you look at furniture and stuff like that. But I mean, if we can come up with things that can save staffing, certainly that would be a desire. So if the board would let us craft some versions on Monday and bring it to you Tuesday night, I guess that would be what I would request.
Cindy?
So I think one of the scenarios I would like to be able to see is if you cut deep and like 4.5%, 5%, and then I'm sure we have the 7.83% as it's presented, and then maybe one middle of the road, but rather than you keep coming back, if you could kind of give us, like I said, a really deep cut.
Oh, we'll give you a whole variety.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Anybody else's thoughts?
So I have a question. So
Oh,
can we
go for it, Jess.
Can we get an estimate, Lynn, at some point about what the percentage increase would mean for taxpayers itself? Like, we talking like?
That's on there. It's on, she breaks it down by the actual, to the towns themselves.
Right, but what does that mean for the individual taxpayer? Is it like
Oh, I
30
see.
bucks per
I asked that
thousand?
question before. I don't think
I
that was.
think we've had it before.
Oh, did you?
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, Lynn, don't let me speak for you.
I will have to see if I can work with the towns to figure that out because I'm not really sure offhand how I would calculate that, but I'll figure it out.
You're amazing, Lynn.
Thank you.
Like,
2,000 is about 0.5%.
thank you.
That's just
Who?
general Blackboard math. It's not a goal.
Oh, Nicole, there you are. Did you have a question?
I just have more of a comment, I guess. It's just, over the past 6 years, the GNI, the gross national income, has only been about 2% increase per year. So I think going forward, we really need to make sure we're in line with what salaries, what income our taxpayers have, or to stay close to it, because I don't think we've had a 2% increase in the district. I think it's been over that for quite a while. So we're putting people behind by continuing to move on the path we're on right now.
I think part of the issue was the fact that we were behind as far as salaries for teachers, was why there were a couple of big jumps there.
Right. And I think we're really ahead on benefits, though, is the healthcare. Like I said before, is the healthcare is jumping 24% in 3 years. So, we may be on the same track as everyone else right now, but I think everyone else is going to be looking really hard at that healthcare with the costs going exponential like they are.
Mhm. Mhm. That's right, Nicole. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, we've certainly given them direction once again. And so our next budget meeting as of right now is going to be scheduled for April 28th. Am I correct?
You are.
April 28th here at the high school at 6 o'clock. Any more comments, concerns? Okay. I guess we're done. Are you all set, Todd, with your?
To
Yeah.
move.
Okay.
Okay. Can I make a motion? Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
I'll second it.
Board meeting adjourned at 8:05. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Have a great weekend. Stay healthy.